maker behind Vintage Knitting Party. Welcome to my YouTube channel. This is actually my first ever knitting podcast episode. I love making a mixture of vintage and modern knitting patterns, and I love watching other people's knitting podcasts. I love keeping up to date with what people are making, so I thought that maybe I would try my hand at making my own knitting podcast. I'm not sure if you guys want to know a little bit about me as a human. Like I said, my name is Lauren. I live in Brisbane, Australia. I do have a day job. I'm actually a therapist and I love it. My job is amazing. But knitting is really my creative outlet away from people that just allows me to express my creativity, make exactly what I like. I'm also very interested in vintage inspired clothing. So making your own clothing and wearing clothing, like everything just goes hand in hand there. And I remember the first time I ever found a knitting pattern from the 1940s. I was in an antique store with my mum and my partner, and I always stumble over to the craft section because I've always liked knitting and sewing and painting. And I picked up a Sunglow book, my first ever knitting book, and I just gasped audibly. Like, I could not believe that I'd found this incredible thing. I didn't know a huge amount about historical fashion, but as I was leafing through, I was just like, this is what I want to be wearing every day. Like, are you kidding me? This exists. This is amazing. And it just went from there. I ended up collecting so many vintage knitting patterns that I decided to open my own web store because I just thought it was too selfish for me to only keep them to myself. And I love sharing what I make on Instagram. If you want to go find me over there, it's at Vintage Knitting Party. And that's kind of how I've ended up here. I'm going to launch straight in now that I've told you a little bit about myself and start sharing something that I have finished recently. The biggest thing that I finished recently that I'm just so excited to show you is my Felina sweater. Yay! She's so cute. I'll show you some proper photos of this. I'll just insert some magically. This is the Felina. It's a pattern by Patterns and Baldwin. I'm pretty sure it's from the knitting book number 210, but if you're looking to knit it up, you can actually find it on my website if you search Felina. I have a highlight on my Instagram stories all about the making process of this. It took me about 12 weeks. This is in fingering weight yarn that I found secondhand. I actually had the craziest game of yarn chicken. If you follow me on Instagram, you'll know all about that, but I ended up having about 2 grams of yarn left, like just a scrap, which is crazy. Actually, I think I have it here. This is all I had left after making that sweater. This tiny little scrap, it's so small. So that was the most stressful experience of my life. I will never be doing that again. There are 3 buttons on the back, which I got from my local op shop, and I think all 3 of them were 15 cents. They were so cheap, and the color matches perfectly. I did have to make it a little bit bigger to match my measurements. So to do that, I added 1 pattern increase, which is 20 stitches. So this section across here, in the front and the back and each of the sleeves. My measurements did change in the 12 weeks that I was knitting this, so unfortunately it's just a tiny bit big for me, but it's fine because my weight fluctuates all the time and whatever, I'm a human, it's okay. So I'm still happy with it. I can still wear it. It's still really comfortable. It's just not quite like the negative ease 1940s look that I was going for. But I'm really, really proud. I think this is the first 1940s pattern for myself that I've knitted from start to finish. Like, there are lots of other ones that I've sort of picked up and then left, and I've got lots of like works in progress. I made a cardigan for my partner and that turned out really wonderfully, but this is the first one for me that is completely mine. I'm so excited. If you would like to knit this pattern or you have any questions about it, please reach out. I love making new knitting friends. I did have someone comment and saying like, oh, it's so sad that it's such a small size, but honestly, it's a really, really easy pattern to alter. If you get gauge, 1 pattern repeat is about 2 inches. So if that helps you kind of understand how to change the pattern, you can. At the time that I started this, my bust measurement was 40 inches and the pattern is for like 36 to 37. So by adding adding an extra stitch repeat in the front and the back, I added another 4 inches. So that took it to about 40 or 41 inches, which should have been perfect, but then my body changed. So dumb. Anyway, I'm really proud of this project. 5 out of 5. I do have a post on Ravelry all about it, so you can have a look there for extra details if you're interested. There are a couple of other things that I have finished lately. I have been on a sock knitting bender. I really wanted to start knitting socks this year. I picked up some yarn, I picked up some needles, I knitted one sock, and then I didn't finish the second sock, ever. So I've been able to finish both sets of socks. They're all looking a bit fuzzy because I've been wearing them a lot and they've been in the washing machine, but that's okay. I'll start with these ones. This is the first sock I ever cast on. So this isn't a DK weight. This is in the Coops Knit Sock Yeah DK yarn, I think. I got it from my local yarn shop, the Yarn Bowl. It's just a vanilla simple sock pattern. I got it for free on Ravelry. I can't remember who it's by, I'm sorry. For a DK weight, I just cast on 48 stitches. It's a normal like slip stitch heel and then just a little Kitchener stitch toe join. I love the colors of these, they're beautiful. This is the second sock that I knit and I actually ran out of the pink yarn, so it's like half a centimeter shorter than the other one. And the first sock was the first sock that I ever knit. So I didn't do a stretchy cast on the leg. It's quite uncomfortable to get on. Some of the places in which I've joined the yarn have like come apart and there's a hole growing in them. I'm not even getting upset about it. Like these have turned into bed socks. I'm okay with that. I'm comfortable. Like we've all got to learn and grow somewhere. And I think it's important to share our fails as well. Not that I would call this a failure, but I have learnt a lot making these. I also learnt a lot making my second pair because, you know, sometimes you just got to learn things multiple times and like that's okay. These are the Cozy Autumn socks by This Handmade Life. I absolutely love these. They have a beautiful pattern on the leg and on the top of the foot, and then the underneath of the foot is just stockinette. Look at this beautiful color. So pretty. I got this hand-dyed yarn from, again, my local yarn shop, the Yarn Bowl. I buy a lot of my sock yarn from there. I will pop the name and colorway on the screen because I can't remember it for the life of me, but it is really beautiful and I have quite a bit left over, so I'm going to be making like a stripy, scrappy sock with them. I also learnt a lot from these because the color that I used, the gray that I used for the cuffs, the heels and the toes is 25% nylon, 75% merino wool. Seems like it should be the right composition for socks, but it was labeled baby yarn and I got it just from an op shop somewhere and I should have known not to use it. But I was like, you know what, like in theory it'll be fine. And in theory it was fine. And it still is fine, I guess. But every time I wear these socks with shoes, I just get quite a bit of fluffage. And I'm worried that every time I keep scraping off the pills, like eventually I'm not gonna have any sock left. So both of these are pretty much bed socks. And that's okay, I'm fine with that. I do have a couple of socks in progress. I cast on my first ever Colourwork socks. These are the Magic Toadstool socks by Stone Knits. They are so freaking cute. Look at those little toadstools. I love them. I love them so much. I just think they're so adorable. These were my first ever Colourwork socks, and knitting with 3 colours in one row and having a lot of long floats and needing to catch my floats, oh my gosh, it was definitely a challenge. It is pretty messy inside here. This is only my first sock and I'm actually thinking about ripping it out and doing it again. Again, I know that you have to practice, I know you have to start somewhere, but I just really, really like this pattern and I really want to be like proud to wear them. So I'm thinking I might just, yeah, rip them out and start again, just because I want them to be like a tiny, tiny bit neater. And I think that's okay. I don't think I'm being too much of a perfectionist. I think I just know that like I don't need another pair of bed socks. Like I want something that I can wear with cute little sandals and my little docks and just show them off to the world and feel super proud of how neat they are. I feel like another reason that I want to knit them again is because I know that the more I knit colour work, the neater and neater it gets. So this is the 4th pair of socks that I'm going to show you today, and the last one, that's okay. These are my Feelin' Fruity socks, I think, by Stone Knits. They're so freaking cute. Look at these little berries with their little bubbles. Oh, I love it so much. So sweet. These are for my work Secret Santa. The recipient doesn't even know that I talk about knitting on the internet, so she will never know that I'm sharing this, but she loves purple, she's really fun, she's really quirky, and I just think she's going to appreciate these so much. My floats are so much neater on the inside. And this pattern only ever uses 2 colours at a time. Oh, maybe there's one row where there's 3, but it's a very, very easy row. Like there's no long floats or anything like that. And I just have noticed, like, while I've been knitting this pattern, that my colour work is so much neater. I would be so happy to give this as a gift, and there's not really any flaws, I guess. And I'm really, really happy about that. The heel construction is a little bit different. I can't remember what this heel is called. It's kind of like a waffle pattern. Anyway, I'll figure that out and I'll get back to you. I'm using one of the little stitch markers that I made. He's so cute. I just needed some little stitch markers and I wanted some cute ones, so I made my own. I think there's 2 things about the socks that I forgot to mention. The yarn that I'm using is pretty much all Cascade Heritage sock yarn. This is a little skein that I hand wound myself because I refuse to invest in a ball winder that is ugly and plastic, and that I know that I'll want to upgrade to a nice fancy wooden one, but I can't afford yet. And I basically just went on woolwarehouse.co.uk, I think, and I ordered a bunch of colours that I knew I would use, a lot of these like warm kind of earthy tones, because I knew that I wanted to knit a bunch of colourwork socks. It felt very strange to be buying yarn new. If you've followed me on Instagram at all or watched my other video, my Make Do and Mend series, pretty much everything that I buy is secondhand. So there's a bunch of op shops around me that they just have a lot of crafty things, which is really cool. And there's also a place on the north side of Brisbane called The Nest, which is a community run haberdashery op shop. So it's like walking into like a Spotlight or, you know, any kind of craft store. Like there's a wall full of yarn, there's a wall full of fabrics, they've got sewing patterns, they've got knitting patterns, they've got needles, buttons, zippers. Like I basically just go there with a shopping list and I just pick up everything that I need. So I'm really fortunate to have that nearby. Obviously I'm always looking on Facebook Marketplace and stuff like that. But I just think sock yarn from those 2 experiences that I just had is just something that I can't scrimp on. I think I need to make sure that it's actually going to be wearable and that it's going to hold up over time, and that to me is probably the more sustainable option. So I am really happy with this yarn so far. Obviously I haven't worn it yet because I've only been using it for those 2 colourwork socks. I did pick up just some tiny little extra balls from my local yarn shop for little accent colours, like for the Feeling Fruity socks, and I think I'm going to use some of these for my scrappy, like stripy socks as well. But yeah, that's the yarn that I'm using for my socks. I'm also keeping my fruity socks in this cute little project bag that I made for myself. I am obsessed with this. Really cute little project bag. I made a quilt block for either side, just using a basic log cabin pattern and some green scraps that I've had in my stash for a little while. I can make an entire video about this because I've actually had a few questions, but I basically just make the quilt block. I make a square of the same size out of the lining fabric, and then there are some strips that go down the bottom and sides, and then you just sew them up at the corners. But I just don't think this is something I can explain verbally. I think I'm gonna have to draw a diagram or make a whole video about it. But this is really cute. I'm so happy with these little project bags and I really want to keep making more of them. Okay, back to vintage knitting and sweaters. I was so sure that I was going to be casting on something completely different after I finished the Felina sweater. I had a whole project lined up. I've got the pattern, I've got the yarn. I'll show it to you after this so that you can get excited. And then Killer Kitsch 13 on Instagram said that she wanted to start a knit along. And the knit along was going to be for the 1940s lavender rainbow jumper, which is so wildly popular. Obviously, it's the sweater that was worn by Scarlett Johansson in Jojo Rabbit. So I cast one on. I couldn't help myself. This is the back. Where am I? This is the bottom ribbing. I've got all of this beautiful knitting, and then I've shaped for an armhole, and we're doing the welt at the top of the back. I just absolutely love these colors together. I think the stitch is so pretty. There are so many things about the sweater that I absolutely love, and I'm really enjoying knitting on it. Every skein that I'm using for this I actually either already had in my stash or I picked up secondhand at the Nest. So very happy about that as well, to be able to use up some of my just random balls of yarn. I don't even know where they came from. This is very quick to knit. It is so addictive. The ribbing, not so much, but that's fine. Because once you get to the color portion, I think I knit this whole thing in 2 days. Obviously there's been other days since then that I've had to work on my socks, but I just feel like this is going to happen so quickly. I really wasn't sure if I needed another DK weight sweater in my collection because I live in Brisbane and it's so hot here, but I actually think I'm going to get a lot of wear out of this. The colors are so funky. I can't wait to wear it. Oh, it's going to be so beautiful. So thank you so much to Killer Kitsch for hosting this knit along. If you want to join in, it's not too late. There's no start or end date as far as I know. Just go to her Instagram page, use the hashtag. She started a Discord as well. I made an account, but I'm really bad at that kind of stuff. And yeah, it's just so much fun. I'm really enjoying seeing everybody else's come together as well. To finish up, I want to leave you with a future project plan. So the sweater that I was going to be casting on if I weren't knitting on this rainbow jumper is another 1940s pattern. It's called the Conga. So the Lakonga pattern is by Patterns and Baldwin. It's in a book that my beautiful friend Mia picked up for me at the op shop. Unfortunately, it's quite damaged, so the beautiful pattern picture has got some scribbles on it, and I'm going to see what I can do to try and Photoshop them out because I really want to make it. The reason I really want to make it is because, okay, I have this yarn that I am dying to use. I picked it up at the Nest. I got a whole sweater's quantity. It's a beautiful fuzzy, soft, brown wool blend. And there are just like flecks of green and purple and white and black. It's a really interesting yarn to look at. I'm really enjoying it. It's incredibly soft. And it is a little bit heavier than a fingering weight. So it doesn't look as though it's plied together. It looks as though it is, what do they call it? Like a chain yarn where it is kind of blown into a tube. Yeah, the construction is really interesting. I actually think that might help because this is so soft and floofy. I know that there's going to be pilling and I know that it may have some issues with wearing, but I think that fundamental like chain structure is gonna really help it. Yeah, so it's a little bit heavier than a fingering weight yarn, but not quite a DK. And I think that'll be great because for this pattern, it's not quite my size. So if I just size up a needle and I have this slightly thicker yarn, I think I'll be able to achieve my size. Going back to the pattern itself is from the 1940s. It's got a beautiful high neck, beautiful shoulders, long sleeves, fitted around the shoulders, and then when it comes to the bodice, there's a little bit of positive ease around the bust and around the waist, which isn't so popular in 1940s patterns. I love a negative ease look. Like I love these little short sleeve sweaters. I think they're so cute. But I do get a little bit bloated sometimes, and you know, sometimes I want to wear a sweater over a dress, especially if it's long sleeved. I'm so much more a dress person than I am a pants person, and I just think this is something that is going to fill a gap in my wardrobe. I already have the yarn for it. I already have the pattern. I do want to start doing something at the moment on the Vintage Knitting Party website. If you sign up for my email list, you get a free pattern. At the moment, it's the Mavis Slinky, which is so freaking cute. I love her. But I'm actually thinking about changing it so that the free download is whatever pattern I'm working on at the time, so that if you're interested, you can just get the pattern for free for the time that I'm also working on it, and we can work on it together. So even though the pattern is damaged, I'll look at... I need to turn it into a PDF for myself anyway, because I like to knit on the go, and I'm not going to be taking a fragile little pattern book from the 1940s out and about with me. So I'm going to see what I can do to clean it up and make it available for you guys as a free download. So that's my future plan after the rainbow jumper, which I'm sure will be done in no time. Hopefully next month I have a finished object to show you, depending on how my gift knitting goes. I guess there's one more thing that I wanted to mention in regard to future plans. Hang on one second. I have a cone of yarn. This is this is so heavy. This is a lot of yarn. That's how big it is. It is, I would say it's fingering weight. But it's basically like a chenille texture, if you know what that kind of velvety, chenille kind of fabric is like. I am a fortunate person in that I don't get, I have some other sensory issues, but I don't get like weirded out by fuzzy, velvety, chenille textures. She's a bit dusty because it's been in my cupboard for a long time. But I picked this whole cone up for $1 at Reverse Garbage, which is a community-run organization which basically takes people's trash and sells it as if it were like in a retail store. So they take, things that would literally end up in landfill, if it weren't for this. So they end up with a lot of cones of thread from manufacturing warehouses, I suppose, like factories, like places where they make clothing and homewares and things like that, and they end up with stuff like this left over. And I picked it up because I love the color. It's definitely my color. I love these warm kind of tones, as you know, but I don't know what to do with this. So I have 3 options and I need you to help me decide. My first option, which was my immediate thought, was a jumper dress. So there are obviously lots of beautiful 1940s patterns that I love. I'll pop one on the screen that I think would look really cute, perhaps in a shorter length and in a solid color in this. I just think a jumper dress would fill a gap in my wardrobe. I would get a lot of wear out of it because the one jumper dress that I have had that is too big for me now, I wore all the time in winter. It's very practical for work, very, very easy to wear. So that's option 1. Option 2 is a long line cardigan. So I would basically take a vintage cardigan pattern and extend it to make it longer. I don't know. Okay, one of my friends has a cardigan like that and I love it. Every time I see her wear it, I'm like, oh my God, I'm obsessed with that. But I've had long line cardigans before and I've not really worn them much. So I think that'd be a beautiful pattern. I'm thinking like some cables and some texture. It would just be gorgeous, but I don't know whether I would wear it as much. And then my third option is the Campus Casual Pinafore, which I have in my web store. It's a pattern from the 1940s. You make the skirt and then you make 2 separate bodice pieces, which are either the straps that go across or it's like a jumper, I suppose, which fits in like under, there's like an arm side, like it comes in under the arm and then across the front in like a deep V. And it is so beautiful. It's very, very popular in my store, but I haven't seen it knitted by anyone yet. And I think this would be so cute. Imagine it with like a brown turtleneck underneath. I have so many like button down shirts that would look so cute underneath it. Oh my gosh, it would be amazing. So I need you to help me decide. Tell me whether you want option 1, 2, or 3, and eventually I'll get around to it. I think that's all I have to share with you guys today. Thank you so much. If you've made it to the end of this podcast episode, I am so proud of you. I'm so grateful. Thank you so much for joining me. This has been actually a lot of fun to see all of my knitting projects together. I'm literally drowning in knitting right now and I'm absolutely loving it. If this is the sort of thing that you would be interested in seeing a little bit more often, let me know. I'm thinking monthly knitting podcast episodes so I can alternate it with some other videos. But yeah, let me know what you're knitting on. Let me know what your plans are. Have you got any gift knitting on the go? Is there anything for after Christmas that you're planning on knitting for yourself again? And I'll see you next time. Thank you. Bye.